Facebook, this Facebook Live. Guys, everyone who's on, I got 2 cameras right now. You're in our virtual golf room. Actually, it's like our virtual sporting room right here. And there's 2 cameras right now because we got some people over here on Periscope and over here on Facebook Live. So just in case, everyone's in there. So again, this kind of virtual golf room right here. And you can see the screen behind me. You see the people are coming here. We got a lot of people on here. Welcome everybody. Where are you guys coming from? Where's everyone coming from? What do we got?
South Florida, LA, Chicago.
Nice. Lithuania. Wow, that's awesome. So, we got a lot of construction going on right now. In fact, you can hear some construction going on back there. But you're at Applied Science and Performance Institute. It's freaking awesome here. We got some insane stuff going on. Like, Andy, like on Periscope, show them behind there. We got this green screen back here. See that? I'm going to show you guys here on Facebook. Look at this. We just got this in. New green screen action here. So that basically is so we can do videos live, with some graphics in the background. Yeah. Construction, guys. Construction. 1 second. Huh? Okay, cool. All right. So that's what's going on here. This week we're going to talk about metabolic rate. We got some actually really neat stuff that actually happened in the lab. If you guys follow like our Snapchat, if you follow me on Snapchat, you'll see we got the new ASPI sign up. Getting a bunch of new equipment that's coming into the lab. We'll be taking you for live tours, the whole build out, and everything like that. So let's get to it, and let's talk about this week's subject. On the Muscle PhD Academy, the topic this week was metabolic rate. So what we talked about essentially on metabolic rate was a couple of things, 4 different things. The first thing is what actually causes your metabolic rate. What actually is it? In science, we kind of like to define metabolic rate as essentially how many calories you are utilizing at rest, right? So not during exercise, just at rest. And in general, metabolic rate is going to account for the majority of calories that you actually utilize during an actual 24-hour period, right? Especially for people who are like weightlifting, marathon runners, maybe most of what their calorie expenditure is going to be might be exercise. But for most guys who are lifting an hour a day, even if you're doing some cardio, still the majority, maybe 60% of your calorie expenditure is going to be metabolic rate. So what explains metabolic rate? A couple of different things. One of those main things is going to be essentially like your muscle mass and your fat mass. Yes, fat mass does explain metabolic rate, right? So you're talking about, on average, your fat mass might be responsible per pound, like maybe 2 calories per pound of your metabolic rate. Whereas every pound of lean mass is going to account for something like anywhere from 6 to 10 calories per pound of lean mass. So obviously, the ratio of muscle mass to fat mass is going to explain your metabolic rate. But realize when you diet, if you started off at 200 pounds, and now you actually, for example, went down to 170, even though you might only have 2 to 3 calories per pound of fat mass, you draw 30 pounds of fat, that might impact your metabolic rate. You still have to account for that. Other things that are going to impact your metabolic rate is going to be like your hormonal profile, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But particularly things like thyroid hormone, that's going to lower when you diet. That's going to impact your metabolic rate, right? So you want to keep things like thyroid hormone up higher. You want to keep muscle mass higher. So you want to spare muscle mass at all costs when you're dieting down. Okay, so now let's talk about the 3 different things that we discussed. One was cardio, and 2 different types of cardio. One was calorie cycling. So when we talk about cardio, the different types of cardio that you can actually perform is going to be things like long, steady state cardio, and then it's going to be HIIT. So one of the studies we showed, they did anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes of cardio a day for a couple of weeks. And a lot of people think that's going to really drastically slow your metabolic rate, but within reason, 20 to 45 minutes of slow, steady-state cardio did not lower metabolic rate over a 6-week period, over a several-week period of time. Where you get a problem with long, steady-state cardio is when you move past that 45-minute mark, or 20-minute mark to 45 minutes. When you pass it up, you can slow metabolic rate. So, for example, if you're doing an hour of cardio in the morning and an hour of cardio at night, that can slow metabolic rate. Other thing to understand is this. You almost want to treat steady-state cardio as like dieting. So if I cause a 500 calorie deficit from diet or a 500 calorie deficit from slow steady-state cardio, both would lower my metabolic rate similarly. But cardio in and of itself, without a calorie deficit, is not going to drastically lower your metabolic rate. If that makes sense? So treat it like a calorie deficit. If you drop your calories from diet by 500 calories and another 500 from cardio, that could lower metabolic rate. So you need to treat it like a calorie deficit, but the activity by itself is not lowering the metabolic rate. It's the calorie reduction, or basically the deficit you place yourself in, that's causing the decline in metabolic rate. Now, HIIT cardio, on the other hand, is a whole other topic. So HIIT cardio, basically what we're talking about is you are doing very high burst, high intensity activities. Generally, when we do like a Wingate bike, for example, you're sprinting all the way out, 100%, high intensity, 10 to 30 seconds, all out. And in our laboratory, for example, if you guys watch Generation Iron, if you're doing cardio, we had Ben, for example, when he was prepping for his shows, go all the way out on the bike for 10 to 30 seconds, anywhere from 4 to 10 all-out repetitions. HIIT cardio, unlike steady-state cardio, actually raises your metabolism and might actually increase the size of your muscles. So HIIT cardio, the advantage of it is it's short, it's quick, and if you look at a lot of studies, like especially from like the Trappe brothers and our laboratory, you actually lose as much or more fat on HIIT cardio. You don't actually impair metabolism. So my advice would be this: like, if you're starting off and you're dieting and your main goal is not endurance, if you can get all the benefits from HIIT cardio, likely start there. But if you stall and HIIT's not giving you any more benefits on top of that, or here's the thing to understand about HIIT. HIIT's almost like resistance training, and that HIIT can cause you to overtrain or overreach. If you're resistance training 6 to 7 times a week and you're doing 4 sessions of HIIT cardio a week, you might be completely tapped out, where you can't do another HIIT session because you're so overtrained. In that case, what I would recommend is that's where possibly some steady-state cardio, if you're prepping for a contest, can be beneficial. Just realize the further you get out, the more at risk you are for possibly you could slow your metabolism. Last topic we talked about was calorie cycling, okay? And Davuti did this research, but basically what they did was they had you in a calorie deficit, 2 groups. One group was in a calorie deficit for 4 weeks, yes. But basically they would do 11 days calorie deficit, and then they would have you calorie up for 3 days. So out of a 2-week time period for the 4 weeks, 6 days out of that 4 weeks, they were eating normal or above normal calories. Now, and what they found was that group lost more body fat and maintained a higher metabolic rate than the group that was restricted the whole time. So take-home message on that is, basically you can either have 5 days of low calorie, 2 days off, where you're more maintenance calories, maybe 2 to 500 calories above maintenance, or you could go 10 to 11 days calorie restricted, 3 days not restricted. You'll maintain your metabolism. So that's scientific research showing that that's the case. So never linearly do anything. You want to be non-linear. If you're linearly just dropping calories, you're going to plateau. If you're linearly bulking, you're going to plateau. Go non-linear. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and we'll take a question like from Periscope, and then we'll also take a question from Facebook Live. So what are your questions, guys, that you have? And I'm going to let Andy read them off to me. Actually, Will, can you check these? Okay, Will, come over here. Like, Will, I'm going to have Will stepping on right here. If you don't know William Wallace, you should. He's freaking the man. Will actually last semester did a study on supersets, drop sets, pre-fatigue, and Will's like our like physiology guy, like our guy on training variables. We talk a lot about nutrition, but Will's our training variable. So say what's up, Will.
What's going on, guys?
Say what's up, Periscope.
What's going on, Periscope?
So Will's going to be reading these questions because I can't see him from here because I'm blind. And Andy Barney here is going to be reading our Periscope. So if you see anything interesting, just hit me.
How does HIIT affect your hormones favorably compared to slow steady state cardio?
Okay, so HIIT doesn't cause the calorie deficit that steady state cardio does. So steady state cardio, if it's causing a calorie deficit, it's going to lower testosterone levels, right? It'll typically, if it's really long, so I think that's the main thing, lower anabolic hormone status, lower things like IGF-1. HIIT, on the other hand, raises a lot of the anabolic hormones that you would normally do with resistance training. And we see that in our lab. We saw more quad growth and actually quad decline when we did steady state cardio. So good question.
All right, from Facebook.
Anything you see?
All right, from Facebook, we got Colin Howell asks, what's the best way to recover metabolism after a long period of calorie restriction?
Colin, nice question. What's the best way to recover metabolism after a long period of calorie restriction? Okay. There's a couple of different schools of thoughts here. Okay. Later in the month, we're going to get more into this. Okay. But one of the schools of thoughts are, reverse diet for like 6 freaking months, right? I'll be honest with you, okay? Right? I don't think the data supports that. Like, if you're going to take several months to reverse it and go, oh my God, I'm staying lean for longer. Well, yeah, because you're dieting for longer. Research basically demonstrates very clearly the longer I'm in a calorie deficit, the slower my metabolism gets, okay? You don't want to do that. What you want to do is get right back up to maintenance, likely within 2 weeks. But remember, your new maintenance is not your old maintenance. So if your original calories were 3,000 and on your diet you went to 1,800, probably your new maintenance calories are going to likely be something like 2,400 and not 3,000. So immediately get up to 2,400. If you're near the Applied Science and Performance Institute here in Tampa, Florida, maybe you stop by. I'd like to meet you and shake your hand, and we can do your metabolic rate and tell you exactly where you're at. But stop the deficit immediately. Stop the bleeding. Get back up to where you are. You're not going to stay shredded year-round. Now, I'm not telling you to go binge on Dunkin' Donuts and go out to, some of my favorite restaurants like what Cheesecake Factory, right? Which, if you're keto, that would be okay. Just leave out the bread. All right, what do we got?
That's the way, guys.
If you see some energy.
When calorie cycling, should the deficit of the week be divided over low-calorie days only? I'm a little confused with that question.
So the calorie cycling.
You can say that again in a different way?
Yeah, say it again a different way. If you got something.
You take one from Facebook if you want.
Yeah.
If I want to do a high-cal day, should it be from fat or carbs? And is there any different?
Great question. So if you want to do a high calorie day, should it be from fat and carbs? What I will tell you is this. It depends on your metabolic state, right? So, one is I wouldn't do like super high both. That's likely not the best, that's Western dieting, not the best metabolic state to be in. There's some evidence that like, if you're keto, then it's not going to be from carbs. That I can tell you. But if you're not keto and you're carb cycling, then there is some evidence that possibly upping your carbs, on those higher calorie days, and then going on a depletion day, lowering your carbs could be beneficial. So if you're keto, I would up them likely from fats. If you are not keto and you're kind of endomorphic like I am, and you tend to store fat easier, I would cycle by upping your calories from protein. Dr. Joey Antonio's lab shows it's almost impossible to gain fat from upping protein. So, like, for example, Andy in our lab has actually done similar to Joey Antonio's study and upped his protein 300 grams or something a day? 300, 400 grams a day. But the crazy thing about Andy is we probably put on like 15, about 15 pounds the last 9 months, but it's rock solid. So when you up your calories, you might do it from inefficient calories so you don't store it. If you're super lean and you can handle a ton of carbs, probably do it from a balance of carbs and fats and proteins. Great question.
Question keeps getting asked, does intermittent fasting have any effect on metabolism?
Okay, good question. I mean, here's the thing. It's actually a really, really, really good question. A calorie deficit can lower metabolism, as it is. The thing about intermittent fasting, it seems to, I don't know about the 4-hour fast, but the more like the 8-9-hour fast where you have some kind of meal frequency, intermittent fasting raises ketone levels. So it may be muscle sparing, you know what I mean? So that generally is not going to lower your metabolism. You know, the calorie deficit's going to lower your metabolism, not intermittent fasting itself. And the ketones will likely spare muscle, so that can be good for metabolism. Yeah.
So could it be useful to also cycle through your bulking phase on different days of the week? So maybe 5 days of a high calories and 2 days low?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. Absolutely. Bulking, you should, when you bulk, you shouldn't linearly bulk. Okay? So I see these linear bulking where like, oh, I start off at 200 carbs in, slowly work my way up to 300, and then 405. Listen, here's the thing. When you're bulking, excess calories are going to shut off things that keep us insulin sensitive. Period. Basically, your cells have a fuel gauge. If the tank is full all the time, your muscle's going to say, I don't need as much mitochondria, which burns fat. Insulin's going to be high almost all the time, and that's going to make you resistant. That's like, again, overfeeding in itself can cause a lot of problems that we see in our society. You need to have some periods of time where you deplete your cells of energy and make them think, oh, I actually need to respond. I need to keep fat metabolism high. I need to keep insulin sensitivity high. So I would do similar to the booty, probably like you maybe have a high calorie day, moderate calorie day, normal calorie day. Maybe every once in a while even slightly dip under maintenance to stay insulin sensitive. So absolutely you should cycle your calories even on a bulk.
Any more questions?
Take maybe one more question.
That's the last one.
Amino on keto.
Amino acids on keto. I mean, I think amino acids on keto are fine because your meal frequency is lower. Like, for example, if you're eating keto, you eat a huge breakfast, and you're not hungry till nighttime, maybe having some amino acids in between. We have data that we collaborate with Mike Roberts' lab, where we found when you take amino acids in your keto, the amino acid spike actually goes higher because ketones spare leucine. So, guys, that's me wrap. Just thank you so much for your guys' support. Without you, the Applied Science and Performance Institute would not happen. It couldn't happen. In fact, this Applied Science Performance Institute is for you. That's why we got the green screen back there. So we do a bunch of videos. In fact, we're getting ready to do stuff with Generation Iron. Follow Trey Kidd. We're doing stuff with him, turning him professional. We're doing a bunch of cool experiments. Will's going to be releasing his data on supersets, pre-fatigue. Andy's doing a bunch of stuff with food science and fiber. We're going to be releasing that soon. So thank you for your support, guys. I love you. And we'll catch you next week.